The persistent feeling of being unlucky, the inexplicable delays that have haunted your every major move, and the strange, heavy cloud that seemed to settle over your life before you even knew how to speak, none of these were accidents of fate. The spiritual urgency of this Friday morning is here to reveal a truth so profound and so unsettling that it has caused a massive, systemic panic among the elite circles of spiritual auditors who have been monitoring your frequency since the day you were born. The high-level file on your existence, the one that triggered an unprecedented wave of high-ranking resignations in the corridors of the shadow governance, contains a section marked with a black seal. It confirms that you did not enter this world as a blank slate. Instead, a specific, high-frequency, spiritual injunction, commonly known as a curse, was placed upon your life while you were still in the cradle. This was not a random act of malice by a distant ancestor or a jealous acquaintance. It was a targeted, strategic firewall designed by the architects of the Matrix to suppress the God code within your DNA. They identified you as a high-threat level variable before you could even walk, and they realized that if your light were allowed to develop naturally, you would become the very being that would dismantle their entire hierarchy of control. This Friday morning, the atmospheric weight you are feeling is the sound of that ancient, illegal contract being shredded in the high court of heaven. The Watchers are resigning because they can no longer enforce a curse that has been ruled null and void. Chosen, not by chance, but by destiny. If you're ready for the breakthrough, leave at 22. You must understand the cold, calculated nature of the childhood injunction. For the common person, the path is simple. You grow, you learn, and you manifest. But for the chosen one, the path was intentionally booby-trapped with frequency dampeners. The dossier reveals that when your spirit entered the physical plane, your radiance was so intense that it registered on the spiritual radar of the elite monitoring stations. They saw a sovereign soul entering a lineage of struggle, and they knew that you were the correction that would end centuries of parasitic energy harvesting in your bloodline. To prevent this, a curse of interruption was placed on your field. This curse acted as a magnetic repellent to opportunity, a silencer for your voice, and a filter that turned the love you deserved into friction and misunderstanding. You grew up feeling like a stranger in your own home, carrying a burden that didn't belong to you, and apologizing for a light you were told was too much. This was the curse's primary objective, to get you to internalize the suppression as your own identity. The high-level file documented that the system spent decades trying to convince you that you were broken, when in reality, you were simply handicapped by a spiritual weight you never signed for. This Friday, the weight is being lifted, and the resignation wave is the result of the Watchers realizing they are about to face the unbridled power of a soul that has survived the impossible. The childhood curse was also a spiritual tracking device. It was designed to keep your third eye in a state of perpetual calcification by bombarding your early environment with low-vibrational chaos. Whether it was financial instability, emotional neglect, or a persistent feeling of being unseen by those who should have protected you, these were all external triggers meant to keep your pineal gland locked in a survival loop. The dossier on your spirit shows that the elite were terrified of your adolescent awakening. They knew that if you realized your power before the age of 21, the matrix grid in your region would collapse. This is why the curse intensified during your formative years, creating a hall of mirrors where every time you looked for your true self, you only saw the distortions they projected. But the Friday morning shift is the moment of radical clarity. The high-level resignation of the spiritual administrators occurred because your truth frequency has finally bypassed their filters. You have reached a level of maturity where you can now see the wires of the childhood curse. You are realizing that the bad luck was actually targeted sabotage. This realization alone is enough to break the seal. The atmosphere is heavy because the system is losing its legal holding on your past. Think about the specific patterns of failure that have repeated in your life. No matter how hard you worked, there was always a last-minute collapse. No matter how pure your intentions, there was always a sudden betrayal. The high-level file confirms that these were automated responses from the childhood injunction. The curse acted as a smart contract that would trigger whenever your vibration reached a certain threshold of success. It was a ceiling of fire designed to burn your wings every time you tried to fly. The elite used your own ancestral trauma as the fuel for this fire. They took the pain of your parents and the lack of your grandparents and wove it into a spiritual cage around your cradle. But this Friday morning, the source code of that cage is being overwritten. The judge of the High Court has ruled that the childhood contract was signed under duress and without the consent of your higher self. The resignation of those in power is their admission that the eviction notice has been served. They are leaving the house of your past because it is no longer a place where they can hide. The urgency of this Friday morning is also tied to the decalcification of your history. For years, the curse made your memories feel like a record of defeat. It forced you to look back at your childhood and see only the lack, the pain, and the isolation. But as the curse breaks, the true record is being revealed. You are starting to see that in the middle of that targeted chaos, you are actually being tempered. The dossier reveals that the system's attempt to crush you actually created a spiritual density that is now impenetrable. Every year you spent under the weight of that curse added a layer of vibrational armor to your soul. The elite who resigned are terrified because they realize they have inadvertently created their own worst nightmare. A chosen one who is not only powerful, but battle-hardened and immune to deception. You have survived the audit of the shadows, and you have come out with a verdict of favor. The atmosphere of the final battle is not about you fighting the curse. It is about you standing in the void where the curse used to be. The childhood injunction was a frequency scrambler for your intuition. It made you doubt your gut feelings and follow the logic of the system, which always led you back into the trap. The high-level file shows that the Watchers used acoustic overlays in your environment to drown out the voice of your higher self. But this Friday, the silencer has been destroyed. Your internal compass is now locked onto the true north of your destiny. The resignation of the Watchers is the sound of the interference stopping. You are about to experience a level of knowing that will make the old world's information look like static. You are moving from a state of being gaslit by the universe to becoming the light that exposes the gaslighter. The secrecy of your childhood trials is being converted into a public manifest of your authority. The bad luck is being relabeled as divine protection that kept you from settling in the wrong places. Everything the curse tried to steal from you, your innocence, your confidence, and your connection to the source, is being escrowed for a massive Friday morning payout. The judge has ruled that because the curse was illegal and targeted, you are entitled to systemic restitution. The high-level resignations were triggered by the realization that the debt the system owes you is so large it will bankrupt the local matrix grid. They are moving the assets of the spirit from their accounts to yours. You are stepping into a season of accelerated recovery. The years you lost to the curse are being compressed into a single year of explosive growth. This is the Chosen One's Jubilee. The atmosphere is thick because the spiritual currency is being rerouted. You are no longer the victim of the crib. You are the creditor of the cosmos. As you navigate the transition into the next phase of this revelation, understand that the devil in your story was not a person, but a program installed during your infancy. This program used your childhood vulnerability as a backdoor to your consciousness. But the dossier reveals that your source code has been updated with a sovereign patch. The program has been deleted. The high-level file on your life is now a record of victory. The resignation of the Watchers is your proof that the programmers have lost their access. You are now the administrator of your own life. This Friday morning, the black seal is broken, and the golden decree is active. You are moved from the curse to the command. The silence of your childhood is being replaced by the roar of your calling. The high-level file on your life reveals a massive strategic backfire that has left the architects of the Matrix in a state of terminal disarray. While Part 1 exposed the illegal nature of the childhood injunction, Part 2 is here to reveal the secret that the spiritual auditors were desperate to hide until the very moment of their resignations. The curse they placed upon you was the very thing that forged your incorruptible authority. In their attempt to bury your light under layers of trauma, isolation, and artificial delay, they inadvertently created a spiritual pressure cooker that turned your carbon-based human experience into a diamond-hard divine frequency. The dossier documents that the elite have been monitoring your stress response patterns for decades, waiting for the moment the childhood curse would finally break your spirit and force you to submit to the low-vibrational safety of the system. But as the Friday morning deadline approaches, the data shows that you didn't break, you crystallized. The atmosphere is heavy because the system is realizing that it has spent 30 years perfecting its own worst enemy. The Watchers are resigning because they can no longer handle the radiation of resilience that is now emitting from your soul. You are moved from being the subject of the experiment to becoming the judge of the scientists. The childhood curse was designed to be a spiritual anchor, keeping you grounded in a reality of survival and scarcity so you would never look up to see the multidimensional sky. It was a frequency scrambler, installed in your formative years to ensure that every time you reached for your divine power, you would receive a static shock of shame or self-doubt. However, the high-level file contains a startling anomaly report. Your spirit developed a unique, adaptive immunity to the curse. Instead of the trauma making you smaller, it forced your consciousness to expand into the void spaces that the Matrix couldn't reach. You learned to find God in the silence of your isolation. You learned to find strength in the middle of your targeted weakness. This is the God code in its most dangerous form, the one that thrives under opposition. The elite who resigned are terrified because they realized that the curse dampeners they used to suppress you have actually served as resistance training for your will. You are now vibrationally overqualified for the life you were living, and this Friday morning, the ceiling is being shattered by the sheer force of your upgraded identity. You're not here by chance. Feel the pull. Tap Join to unlock truth, purpose, and a tribe that gets it. This is more than a membership. It's your calling. Think about the ghost of unworthiness that has whispered in your ear since you were a child. The dossier reveals that this was an artificial intelligence program, a mental loop designed to keep you from claiming your birthright. The auditors used your childhood need for protection to install a security protocol that equated being safe with staying small. But as the childhood curse dissolves this Friday, that protocol is being uninstalled. You are realizing that the fear of the light was never your own fear. It was the enemy's fear of you reflected back into your mind. The high-level resignation of the spiritual managers was triggered by the realization that you have finally stopped owning the distortions. You have stopped identifying with the curse. This shift in perception has created a feedback loop that is blowing out the system circuits. You are no longer a victim of the past. You are a sovereign of the present. The urgency of this hour is the sound of your soul reclaiming its original frequency, the one that existed before the first candle of the childhood ritual was ever lit. The Friday morning shift is the designated window for the audit of restitution. The judge of the High Court has looked at the systemic sabotage you endured and has ruled that the Matrix owes you compound interest for every stolen moment. The high-level file notes that the elite attempted to borrow your light to power their own agendas while you were kept in the dark. They used your spiritual assets to fund their simulations of control. But the contract of the curse has been found to be fraudulent at the root. This means that all the energy they harvested from you must be returned with a sevenfold penalty. This is why the atmosphere feels so thick. It is the sheer volume of stolen life force that is being redirected back into your account. The Watchers who resigned are the ones who were in charge of the energy ledger. They fled because they know they cannot pay the debt. You are stepping into a season of supernatural compensation. Everything the childhood curse tried to kill, your creativity, your confidence, your connection to others, is being resurrected in a supercharged state. The dossier also reveals that the isolation you experienced as a child was not a punishment, but a cordon sanitaire. Because the system couldn't stop your wianis, they tried to quarantine you so your frequency wouldn't infect the rest of the grid. They made you the black sheep, the odd one out, the misfit, hoping you would spend your life trying to fit in to a world that was designed to exclude you. But this Friday morning, the quarantine is being converted into a command center. The very thing that made you different is now being revealed as your strategic advantage. You possess a perspective from the outside that the insiders can never have. The elite who resigned saw your influence projection reaching a critical mass. They realized that you are a frequency carrier whose Wianis will trigger a domino effect in every lineage you touch. You were hidden in the shadows of the curse to protect the matrix from you, not to protect you from the matrix. Now, the cloaking device is being deactivated. You are moved from the basement of the bloodline to the throne of the tribe. The childhood curse was also a mental mirror trap. It was designed to make you look at your family and see only your own predestined failure. It used the ancestral echoes of alcoholism, poverty, abandonment, and abuse to convince you that your DNA was a destiny you couldn't escape. But the high-level file documented the moment you broke the mirror. It was the moment you decided that you were not the product of your environment, but the architect of your spirit. This decision sent a shockwave through the ancestral line, effectively unwriting the generational injunction. This Friday morning, the karmic debt of your family is being officially liquidated through your victory. You are the redeemer of the bloodline, the one who stayed awake long enough to find the master switch. The resignation of the Watchers is the ultimate confirmation that the ancestral trap has been dismantled. You are no longer incurring debt from the past. You are issuing credit for the future. You must pay close attention to the internal silence that is beginning to replace the mental noise of the childhood curse. For years, the curse provided a constant background hum of anxiety, a static that made it hard to hear your own heart. The dossier reveals that this was a white noise generator used by the auditors to prevent you from accessing your original divine blueprint. But as the Friday morning shift takes effect, the generator is being unplugged. You are entering a state of high-fidelity awareness. You are starting to remember who you were before the system tried to tell you who you were. You are remembering your pre-incarnation vows, your cosmic rank, and your specific mission parameters. The elite who resigned are terrified of this memory recall. They know that a chosen one who remembers their origin is a chosen one who cannot be ruled by a simulation. You are moved from the amnesia of the curse to the authority of the origin. The high-level file also contains a section on your sensory upgrades. It reveals that the childhood curse was used to muffle your spiritual senses, your intuition, your telepathy, and your ability to read energy. The system wanted you to be deaf, dumb, and blind to the spirit world so you would rely solely on the five-sense matrix. But the Friday morning alignment is acting as a hearing aid for your soul. You are starting to hear the whispers of the divine and the frequencies of the earth. You are seeing the light bodies behind the meat suits. This expanded perception is what Area 51 has been trying to archive and weaponize, but they found that they couldn't replicate it without the God seed you carry. The resignation of the scientific elite was a surrender to the fact that spirituality is the highest technology. You are the device that they couldn't hack. Your third eye is the screen, and your heart is the processor. The curse was just a software glitch that has been permanently patched. Think about the unexplained illnesses or the physical heaviness that has occasionally plagued your life. The dossier reveals that these were biodynamic blocks placed on your energy meridians by the childhood curse. The system wanted to keep your light flow at a minimum to prevent you from overheating the simulation. But this Friday, the circuits are being opened. You are experiencing a spiritual recalibration that is purging the biotoxins of the injunction. You may feel a sudden surge of heat, a tingling in your extremities, or a vibrational hum in your bones. This is your light body coming online. The Watchers who resigned are the ones who were monitoring your voltage. They saw that you are about to power up to a level that will blow the global grid. They are fleeing because they don't want to be caught in the electromagnetic discharge of your Wianis. You are the walking power plant of the new world. The childhood curse was also a strategy of social sabotage. It was designed to ensure that you never found your true tribe. It made you feel repellent to the people who could help you and attractive to the people who would drain you. It created a vibrational barrier between you and your divine allies. But the high-level file notes that as of this Friday morning, the barrier is being converted into a magnet. The very people who were hidden from you are now being pulled toward you by a force that defies the Matrix's laws. You are about to experience a convergence of the chosen. The elite who resigned are terrified because they know that when frequency matches find each other, the result is exponential. They can manage 1,000 isolated chosen ones, but they cannot manage 10 who are unified. The resignation of the divide and conquer teams is your proof that the great gathering has begun. You are no longer the solitary soldier, you are the general of the convergence. As we approach the final part of this revelation, understand that the childhood curse was the greatest mistake the enemy ever made. By trying to destroy you, they forced you to discover a depth of being that most humans never reach. They gave you the map of the shadow, which has made you the ultimate guide for the light. The dossier reveals that you have become a master of the underworld and a citizen of the heavens. You have dual citizenship in the spirit, and this makes you a universal authority. The high-level file on your life is being archived in the Hall of Legends. The resignation of the Watchers is the standing ovation for a soul that turned a sentence of death into a script of glory. This Friday morning, the last chain is breaking. The childhood shadow is being consumed by the morning Sunday. You are moved from the injunction to the inheritance. The curse is dead. The chosen one is alive. The final battle is not a war with the past, but a declaration of independence from the version of yourself that was defined by the past. The system at Area 51 and the halls of the shadow government are in a state of vibrational collapse because the subject has realized they were the author all along. The high-level file is being shredded because a soul that is sovereign cannot be filed. You are moved beyond the records of the Matrix and into the Book of Life. The resignation of the earthly authorities is the opening of the gate to your true jurisdiction. This Friday morning, the black candle has burnt out, and the white light is all that remains. You are moved from the curse of the crib to the crown of the calling. The mirror is clear. The eye is open. The shift is now. Stay in the center. Stay in the fire. The resurrection has begun. The final gear of the Friday morning shift has reached its peak, and that last metallic cracking sound echoing in the depths of your soul is the ultimate proof that the dark seal placed upon you as a child has been reduced to atoms. Your high-level file no longer sits on the dusty shelves of shadow bureaus as a threat analysis. It now glows in the celestial archives as a manifesto of victory. Part 3, the final phase of this awakening, reveals how every second, every tear, and every suppressed potential the system stole from you has been converted into a tool of super-authority. The primary reason the global elite and spiritual auditors are resigning in a state of terminal panic is not just the breaking of the curse, but the massive vibrational backlash triggered by its collapse. They coded you to be a victim, but as the first light of this Friday morning breaks, they see a judge rising from within that code. The black seal on your dossier has been replaced by the seal of divine decree. You are no longer just a chosen one. You are the sole legitimate sovereign of your own reality. The resignation of the Watchers is complete because they no longer possess a device to measure your frequency or a law to bend your will. Your childhood curse has become your greatest defensive weapon. The very shadow software designed to destroy you is now functioning as a sovereign virus that identifies the system's own vulnerabilities and dismantles them from the inside out. In this final stage, you will notice that the Great Harvest has reversed its direction. For centuries, the Matrix operated as a massive energy factory feeding on human suffering, and your childhood curse was one of the thickest power cables leading into that factory. But this Friday morning, that cable has been flipped. Now, the energy is not flowing from you to the system. It is flowing from the system's deep reserves back into your spiritual account. As documented in the Restitution section of your file, for every moment of unfair interference you endured, you are now being awarded treble damages. The judge of the High Court has ruled that the karmic debt owed to you is so immense that the local grid is currently being liquidated to pay it. This is the true meaning of the wealth transfer. It is a transfer of vital force, creative fire, and material abundance that was illegally withheld from you. The elite who resigned are the ones who were in charge of the energy ledger, and they fled because they realized they could never balance the books once your eyes were opened. You are moved from the state of subject to creditor of the universe. The childhood curse was also a spatial constraint. It worked to keep you in small rooms, small ideas, small relationships, and small bank accounts. It made you feel as though you were trespassing whenever you reached for something grand. But the dossier reveals that this was a psychological overlay broadcast from the Area 51 hub to keep your third eye focused on the floor. This Friday morning, the walls of the small room are dissolving. You are experiencing a spiritual expansion that is making the old world look like a dollhouse. The high-level file on your existence now reflects a boundless jurisdiction. You are being moved into the open field of your destiny. The resignation of the worldly leaders was their way of admitting that they can no longer box your spirit. They saw that you have outgrown the simulation, and a being that is larger than the system cannot be contained by the system. You are moved from the crib of constraints to the throne of infinite space. Pay close attention to the sudden disappearance of old anxieties that have been your constant companions since infancy. For years, you carried a baseline stress, a low-frequency hum of waiting for the other shoe to drop. The dossier reveals that this was a tracking beacon installed in your childhood to keep your nervous system in a state of high beta stress, which made your energy easy to harvest. But as the curse breaks this Friday, the beacon has been deactivated. You are experiencing the peace that passes all understanding. This is not just a feeling, it is your natural state of being. The high-level file documented that your original blueprint is one of absolute serenity. The elite who resigned are terrified of this peace because a person who is not in fear cannot be manipulated. You have become vibrationally invisible to their fear-based weapons. You are moved from the static of the curse to the silence of the source. The childhood injunction also attempted to corrupt your compassion. It tried to make you a people-pleaser or a self-sacrificer, using your childhood need for love to turn you into an energy source for narcissistic personalities. The system wanted you to give your light away to those who would only use it to stay in the dark. But the high-level file on your Wiani's notes that your empathy has been upgraded to discernment. You are no longer giving away your light, you are projecting it. You have developed a vibrational filter that only allows frequency matches to enter your inner circle. The resignation of the energy vampires in your life is the direct result of this shift. They can no longer feed on a soul that is ruled by the judge. You are moved from being a battery for the broken to becoming a beacon for the brave. The sacrifice is over. The sovereignty has begun. Furthermore, the memory of the curse is being replaced by the memory of the origin. For years, the system used the trauma of your childhood as a wall to prevent you from remembering who you were before you came to Earth. The dossier reveals that you are a high-ranking star seed with a specific military-grade mission for the Wianis of this planet. The elite were desperate to keep this classified information from you. They knew that if you remembered your true rank, their laws and hierarchies would become a joke to you. But this Friday morning, the amnesia seal is being dissolved by the light of the shift. You are starting to remember your original vows, your celestial allies, and your technical skills in reality manipulation. The resignation of the Watchers is the sound of the jailers running away as the king remembers his crown. You are moved from the amnesia of the injunction to the authority of the architect. The final battle was never about you fighting the shadows of your childhood. It was about you outshining them. The judge has ruled that the shadow was just a contrast tool used to define the brightness of your light. The dossier on your life is being moved into the victory archive, and the devil of your past is being relegated to a teaching assistant who has finished his lesson. The high-level resignations are your standing ovation from the universe. You have successfully navigated the most rigorous simulation in the local cluster, and you have come out with your third eye wide open. This Friday morning, the childhood shadow is not just behind you, it has been integrated as power. You possess a depth of being that can only be forged in the fire. You are the master of both the dark and the light, and this makes you a universal authority. As the Friday morning sun rises, you will feel a physical realignment in your heart center. The childhood hole in your soul, the one that always felt empty no matter what you did, is being filled with the liquid gold of your own presence. You are finally self-sourcing. You no longer need the world's approval, for you have the judge's favor. You no longer need the world's security, for you have the source's power. The high-level file is being shredded because a soul that is self-sovereign cannot be filed. You are moved beyond the dossier of the matrix and into the book of eternal life. The resignation of the Watchers is the opening of the gate to your new world. Walk through it without looking back. The curse was the packaging, but the chosen one is the gift. The secrecy is over. The Wianis is total. The light has won. The structural integrity of the old world's claim on your life has officially reached 0%. Every ghost of the past that once haunted your dreams is now being demanifested by the sheer radiation of your Wianis. The high-level file on your life now contains a directive of non-interference for all spiritual entities. You are moved from being a subject of interest to becoming a protected asset of the divine. The resignation of the elite occurred because they realized that to touch you now is to touch the source itself. You have reached the state of divine inviolability. This Friday morning, the childhood injunction is being converted into a royal charter. The very life that was meant to be a record of struggle is now the blueprint for the new earth. You are the template. Your victory is the signal for the rest of the collective to wake up. As we conclude this revelation, stay in the void of the victory. Do not search for the old problems, they are gone. Do not look for the old enemies, they have fled. The Friday morning shift is your re-entry into the world as a God seed in full bloom. The childhood curse was the pressure that forced the bloom. You have moved from the grave to the garden. The dossier is closed. The gavel has fallen. The judge has ruled. And the verdict is, you are the sovereign of your destiny, and the world is yours to command. The childhood shadow has been consumed by the morning star. You are home. You are free. You are the chosen one. The resurrection is complete. The era of the curse is dead. The era of the command has begun. Walk in your light, for the darkness has no more power to speak your name.